received financing assurance upon reaching an agreement in principle with the Official Creditor Committee. This, as we have reported over and over, would deliver significant debt relief to our country. But I'm happy, ladies and gentlemen, to announce that we have moved beyond agreement in principle. As of yesterday, 3rd May 2024, we officially received the draft Memorandum of Understanding from the Official Creditor Committee. The government, therefore, with support from our financial and legal advisors, will quickly review this draft agreement with a view to finalizing and signing the agreement with the OCC as soon as possible. And so for all of those who have been waiting, and as of, I believe last week, I read from the front pages, of some of our media houses, indicating that Ghana received the draft MOU. I can imagine your anticipation. And so I'm happy to say that we have now formally received the draft MOU. And we are going to work harder and quickly to round up the negotiation and sign the MOU. Ladies and gentlemen, we have, in a very constructive manner, also made significant and good progress on our Euro bond holders. It is important to note that we are operating under a complex set of constraints as part of the IMF debt sustainability thresholds, and this formed the context and basis of discussions for a mutual understanding of the financial parameters with our Euro bond holders. We've held several rounds of negotiations on proposals and counter-proposals on the Euro bond treatment. This led to a series of restrictive discussions for about 3 weeks, just before the IMF spring meetings, which ended successfully on the 15th of April 2024. At the end of these discussions, we ended with very narrow differences between our position and those of the bondholders. But let me assure you that considerable progress is being made towards a constructive solution that will be acceptable to all parties. It is for this reason that we are rather confident and more optimistic that we can continue to work together on solutions that would deliver an acceptable compromise for all stakeholders, both the government party and the bondholders. We are determined to reach an agreement with our bondholders and our commercial creditors as well, on terms that are consistent with the IMF program parameters, and we will put all our efforts towards attaining that objective in the coming weeks. Let me now touch on SME growth and opportunity program. Ladies and gentlemen, as it stands, SMEs in Ghana account for 92% of existing companies, 85% of manufacturing jobs, and 70% of GDP. Within that context, our small and medium enterprises represent a significant opportunity for providing growth and employment that is sustainable, inclusive, and impactful. In fact, I've seen data that suggests that 80% of employment in Ghana are created by SMEs. With that in mind, the SME Growth and Opportunity Program is being designed to consolidate ongoing SME support programs and offer better targeted support to a select number of companies that have the potential to transition from SMEs to large businesses under the SME Champions Initiative. The program will be coordinated by the Ministry of Finance and the Ministry of Trade and Industry. The Ghana Enterprises Agency, Ghana Exim Bank, and Development Bank Ghana, which work with some other commercial banks, what we call the PFIs, will offer tailored technical and financial support to program beneficiaries. And I wish to announce also that as part of this program, we will soon roll out a nationwide training program for SMEs in basic accounting practices in order to improve on their credit worthiness, and also to assure the banks that the risk of lending to SMEs will be abated once the SMEs are given this capacity. Ladies and gentlemen, the program framework prioritizes targeted interventions, loan recovery, technical training and handling support for beneficiaries, as well as financing instruments such as loans, equity investments, and interest subsidies, which will all be provided through multifaceted funding sources so that we can reach our desired goal of creating SME champions over the near term. Stakeholder consultations on the program's design have begun in earnest, and we anticipate the SME Growth and Opportunity Program to be launched on the 16th of July 2024 at the National SME Summit, which will be addressed by His Excellency the President of the Republic. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, permit me to use this occasion to express our sincere thanks to the Almighty Allah for His continuous guidance and blessings on our path to economic recovery towards improving opportunities and prosperity for the people of Ghana. Our sincere appreciation also goes to His Excellency the President for his visionary leadership and direction. I would also like to recognize the instrumental role the IMF has played throughout this period, and also the World Bank as well as other development partners. The successful implementation of the IMF program so far, as well as other initiatives of government, including the debt restructuring program, would not have been possible without the collective efforts of all Ghanaians. And I'd like to mention in particular Parliament, civil society organizations, organized labor, faith-based organizations, employer associations, sector ministers, staff of various ministries, departments and agencies, financial sector players, the private sector players, and more importantly, you, the media community in our country. It is our commitment that through our collective effort, we would deliver our common objective of restoring macro stability and debt sustainability and promote stronger and more inclusive growth whilst protecting the poor and the vulnerable. The medium term is bright, ladies and gentlemen, and we can all, as stakeholders, work together to continue to achieve the gains that we are making and put our economy on the path to sustained growth and development. We want to increase growth from the current 2.9% to 5% in the medium term. We want to reduce inflation from the current 25% to 8 plus or minus 2% by 2025. We want to improve the balance at the primary balance on commitment basis from a deficit of 0.3% of GDP in 2023 to a surplus of 1.5% by 2025. We want to increase the tax to GDP ratio from the current 14% to 18% in the medium term. We will fully restore debt sustainability by 2028. And we will continue to improve on gross international reserves to cover not less than 4.5 months of import cover in the medium term. And so, ladies and gentlemen, the medium term economic outlook is bright. It's bright. It is good. And we all must put our hands on deck. We all must continue to support the efforts of government. This is the government we have, and this is the country that we have. We cannot go anywhere else and find better opportunities for ourselves. We have to create these opportunities here for ourselves and for our children and grandchildren. And so I want to call on all of you, the people of Ghana, to stand behind our president, to stand behind our government, so that we go through this pain we have already experienced, but also we can rejoice at the emerging recovery of our economy, so that we can even become better in the near future as we continue and as we return the economy from the hardship that we have gone through to the era of better economic management and better economic results and better economic opportunities for our people. And so I thank you very much for the opportunity.
Honorable Minister, thank you so much for the insightful and inspiring presentation. And it's quite loaded, but for the benefit of our listeners and viewers who have joined us from home and from their offices, and for our friends from the media who are here, there are so many things that Honorable Minister mentioned, but I have 6 key points as highlighted in the presentation. First of all, we have Honorable Minister's assurance that when it comes to the IMF-supported PCPEC program, Ghana will stay the course, and they will make sure that we have a successful implementation of the program. On the CD, Honorable Minister has also mentioned that there is no cause for panic, there is no cause for speculation, there is enough forest in the space. If you need currencies, you will get it. There is no need to say, let me go and change all my money and hide it. Minister has taken us through key interventions that government is putting in place to ensure that the CD remains strong, including building reserves. Minister assured us that beyond the BOG's reserves, the country is also expecting that before the year ends, a total disbursement of about $2.23 billion from various sources, including the World Bank, the Cocoa Syndication, and EBID will come into the system to continue to strengthen the CD. On the third point, Minister outlined government's interventions towards the protection of the poor, and mentioned that allocation to the key social protection programs have been increased. Allocation to LEAP has doubled, school feeding program allocation up by 25%, increased allocation to NHIS by 4%, allocation to the capitation grant to 25%. On the challenges faced by NIB, Minister has assured us that government is going to inject a total of 2.3 billion Ghana cedis to recapitalize NIB. And with that, Minister also assured us that within the next 1 month, there will be a tranche of 400 million Ghana cedi disbursement to NIB. Also, Minister mentioned some governance reforms that they are putting in place at the bank, including structural and supervision reforms, so that the output will be more positive. On the fifth issue, Honorable Minister mentioned debt restructuring and giving us the assurance that when it comes to expected coupon payments, we should be rest assured that the ministry will meet its obligations when they fall due. Honorable Minister mentioned that over the period, there has been 2 successful payments of coupons, 600 million Ghana cedis each paid and paid on time, and therefore when the need arises, government will be able to pay on time. Minister also announced that Government of Ghana has received a draft MOU from the official creditors, the OCCs, and government through the Ministry of Finance will work diligently to ensure that the necessary inputs and also signing takes place. Minister also gave progress on Eurobond holders, also with regards to debt exchange. Finally, the Honorable Minister mentioned the SME Growth and Opportunity Program, looking at how important SMEs are in Ghana's economic dispensation, and outlined the kind of interventions that government is willing to put in place, including a nationwide capacity enhancement for our SMEs. Ladies and gentlemen, these are summaries of presentation by the Honorable Minister for Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam. If you have any question, this is the good time to ask. If you show by hand, they will bring the microphone for you to ask your questions. We can take a round for 5, and hopefully, if there is time, take more. If not, I think it should be sufficient to take a first round. But before we get any hands, permit me to once again acknowledge our media partners. We have a long list of press here to cover and report. We thank you for joining us. Also picking the press briefing live as Honorable Minister speaks is GTV, Joy News, Asasi Radio, ABC News GH, and on Facebook we are streaming at Ministry of Finance and at Ministry of Information. So ladies and gentlemen, if you have a question, show by hand. Okay, I saw another hand at the back. Okay, so we'll take 1, 2. If there are any hands, please, this is the best time to. Okay, there are 2 more. So let's start from here. 1, 2, and then we'll do 3 and 4. Yes.
Hello, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you, Mr. Minister. My name is Manoya. I work at Asasi Radio. Some good news coming in as regards the MOU, but I would like to know what it means for Ghanaians.
Thank you for the question, Anna. We'll take more those in our place.
Right, thank you very much. So, Honorable Minister, good morning.
Good morning.
Some of the...
Kindly mention your name and affiliation.
Oh, okay. The name is Justice. I work for Shinhua News Agency. So currently, even before the signing of the MOU, what is the debt service to revenue ratio we are doing currently? And then what is the target we expect to, achieve when the MOU is done and then we settle these issues with the External Creditors Committee? Thank you.
Thank you, Justice. I saw a hand here. About 2 hands here. Okay, go ahead. Okay, please go ahead, and we'll take the 2.
Mine is on the free form. In your statement, what you said was due to the partly due to the payment made for contractors and the IPVs. Now, somewhere last week, the minority in parliament also made mention to that. One, it's due to the payment for treasury bill, and also they said it's unbiased. I just want to get a response.
Due to what?
The payment for treasury bill, and also the payments are not being completed.
Okay, I believe the Honorable Minister will respond when we are done. Yes, okay. Echo your name and affiliation, please.
My name is I correspond from you. You stated that the economy performed better than anticipated, and you noted how you almost doubled the initial GDP target for 2023. Would that have any effect on the DSA that is being prepared by the IMF? And would a better than anticipated group improve your chances of securing your deal with your bond holders?
Thank you for the question, Echo. Okay.
If you hear me now,
Yes. Minister, we are taking the last one just so that you can go for the meeting. So we take the last question, please.
Graphic.
Okay.
I just wanted to ask for
Please name and affiliation, please.
Emmanuel Bruce Graphic. Updates on the implementation of the EVAT system by the GRA. The GRA has indicated that it intends to onboard about 600 businesses by June, and June is just some few weeks ago. So I want to find out if the minister has updates of how many businesses have been onboarded so far, and then why some major retail outlets are still yet to be onboarded on this EVAT system.
Thank you so much for the questions. Honorable Minister. If you just joined this press briefing, we are live on GTV, Joy News, Asasi Radio, ABC News GH, and streaming on Facebook at Ministry of Finance and Ministry of Information. Honorable Minister.
Well, thank you very much, Honorable Minister, for information. If I got the first question right, it was on the signing of the MOU with the OCCs. What does that mean for Ghana and maybe for Ghanaians? I mean, first of all, we know that a lot of projects, very important projects, have stalled as a result of the debt suspension. And following the declaration of the debt standstill, most of this, if not all, have not been disbursing towards projects. And so with the signing of the MOU, it signals officially an end to our negotiation with the official creditors. We will then immediately sign bilateral agreements with each of the OCC members, because they have different projects which they are funding in Ghana. But what it also means is that disbursement will start to flow in towards those projects, and we should see the contractors going back to site to continue with the projects. Some of the projects around the country include major road projects, and therefore when you bring this negotiation to a close by the formal signing of the MOU, it means a resumption of activity on this stalled project. It also gives us some relief, what people will call time relief, in terms of the extension of the maturity. And therefore, money that we would have been using to service the debt could, in the meantime, go into financing other development projects. The second question on the city, we enumerated a number of factors accounting for the depreciation of the city. And one we said is the payments to contractors, which has increased city liquidity in the market, payment to IPPs as a result of the bullet we had to do following the negotiation we had with IPPs to ensure that they continue to supply power to the country. We've also talked about the strengthening of the US currency against major trading currencies. So there are a host of reasons responsible for this. Now you are quoting the minority that's saying that it's as a result of payment for treasury bills which have not been budgeted for. If you understand budget has, I would say, three main sources of revenue: the taxes we collect, the grants we receive, but also financing, what we call financing. Financing means borrow, okay? And how much we borrow, how much financing we need for this year's budget has been captured in the budget. So anybody who has taken this budget knows that there is financing component of the budget and how much we are going to fund. How much is that? 40? How much is the financing for this year? 62 billion cedis is the financing. And you can borrow, and the only source of financing for now is treasury bills. So we are borrowing through treasury bills to address the financing component of the budget. And so anybody who says that maybe the person's understanding of the budget that we have been approving in Parliament is suspect. The next question is, the economy has performed better than anticipated. Will that have effect on the DSA? I know why you are asking this question. It's following the story you did last week, Yes, but I mean, I can tell you that yes, once the economy improves, your growth increases more than your target, and then other fundamentals of the economy are changing positively, it will definitely have effect on your DSA. But this can only be, formally executed through a review of the DSA. Until that review, you certainly cannot go out and say that your DSA should be higher or lower. There are processes of reviewing the DSAs. And so that is what I can say on that. Your other question, whether it will improve on our chances with the bondholders, I'm not going to comment on that because we are in negotiation and I do not want to preempt some of the fundamental features of the negotiation. So I hope you understand me. The last question on EVAT, I'm going to invite the Honorable Minister of State to respond to this question. Honorable Abner.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Honorable Minister, I know that the EVAT is part of the reforms that we are undertaking at the GRA to make sure we maximize domestic revenue mobilization. As part of that, it's in two phases. GRA wants to target 80% of the business, the businesses that bring in 80% of the revenue. And they are the bigger firms, the larger ones. And so currently, that is what GRA is focused on. The small retail forms the 20% part. So GRA wants to complete the onboarding of the businesses that bring in about 80% of the revenue. Once they are done, the other phase of the 20% will also follow through. And clearly you can see that we have witnessed some positives in the revenue numbers from VAT generation. It happened last year and we are on course to onboard and complete the process this year and make sure we maximize the revenue that is needed for the country. So that's what I can say for now. We're doing the 80%. Once they are done with onboarding of the businesses that bring in the 80%, they'll go on to the 20%, which includes the retail space. And so they will also be brought on board. Thank you.
How many of the 600 clients have been onboarded so far? Because yesterday there was an advert by the GRA that they intend to onboard 600 businesses by June. And June is just something weeks away. So I wanted to find out how many of the 600 have been onboarded so far.
I can't give you the exact number, but that is the process. And so, and you can also, like I said, check the revenue.
And thank you.
Okay, please.
I asked how much, now that we are in paying external, not servicing external debt, what is the debt service to revenue ratio we are doing now? And then what do we expect to do when we conclude, the MOU with the official creditor committee and then the other bondholders?
Okay, thank you for the question. Yeah, Mr. Akes.
Right. Thank you very much, Honorable Minister, and thank you for the question.
The one answering is Professor Akes. He's the director in charge of Treasury and Debt Management.
Honorable Minister, thank you for that elevation. But then the target and the threshold for a country like Ghana is supposed to be 18%. So external debt service to revenue of 18%. And without the MOU, without the debt restructuring, in some of the years you'll be recording almost up to 45%. So these initiatives, as one of the performance and then the importance of the MOU is to be able to reduce that ratio from almost as high as 40% in some of the years to 18% and below 18% by 2028. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor Akes. Okay, so Honorable Ministers, I believe that's the last question. I haven't seen any hands up. Oh, okay. Then I take that to be the last question because we've already done it now.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Obudo. I work with TV3. Honorable, reservations with a high rate of treasury on attractive. There have been suggestions that system for every treasury to also purchase a bond in order to buy the market. Why is it so high when you have some level of monopoly over the market? Number two, also, you've mentioned some livelihood programs you've introduced, but the bottom line is fuel prices are still quite high. Fuel prices are still quite high, averaging over 14 cedis per litre in the country. What to address this particular challenge?
Well, thank you very much. Professor Akes will handle the question on the T-bills. But for the fuel prices, it's not just fuel prices alone, but our domestic economy is also influenced by global happenings. I mean, and the fact that our exchange rate has suffered as a result of some of the reasons I enumerated, including the US currency, will certainly have effect on fuel prices. If you look at the formula for fuel prices in Ghana, it is heavily linked to Forex. And so the measures that we have put in place to address the problems associated with the depreciation of the cedi will in no small measure also heavily affect fuel prices eventually. And so we are addressing some of these factors. But let me say also that it is because of our realization that some of the policies we are implementing will have some effect. And then when they mature, then the positive gains will emerge from those. That is the reason government has increased spending on social interventions to help the poor and the vulnerable in particular cope with the temporary cost associated with our policies, while we all wait to see how these policies will endure eventually in terms of the gains to our economy and to our people. And so if we did not increase the spending, it will mean that the vulnerable and the poor in particular will be overexposed, will be overburdened. And so a sensitive government, a government that is so concerned about the plight of the people, would take such a responsible decision of adjusting the allocations that we make, the spending on the poor and the vulnerable, in order not to leave them behind, in order not to get them worse off. And this is why, in particular for LEAP, we have also indexed it, because we are in an era of high inflation, and we know that, government acknowledges that. Inflation was around 54%, now it is 25%. The 25% is still high, we admit that. And this is why we are working hard with the Bank of Ghana to ensure that inflation at the end of this year reduces to 15%, and then eventually to 8%, 8 plus minus 2% by 2025. And so when you are in a high inflation era, a responsible government, as I said, will want to help people cope with these challenges. And this is why you see us increasing spending in the social interventions. Gone were the days when you embark on an IMF program, you know, it was just austerity, austerity, austerity. But we have been very intentional this time around in negotiating the IMF program, so that we have benchmarks even within the IMF program that commit us to certain levels of spending on social interventions in order for people to be somehow, how do I say, insulated from the effect the program policies will bring to bear on them. And so that is what I can say about this LEAP and the other social interventions. But for the T-bill rates, Prof. Akes, once again.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Let me just put it into context. Before 2023, for almost 4 or 5 consecutive years, the average interest rates on all government instruments, from treasury bills to all the bonds, was about 21%. Now the DDEP restructured an exact amount of 203 billion Ghana cedis, total weighted average of about 9.1%. So 9.1% on 203. We just heard Honorable Minister making reference to the net domestic financing of about 62 billion. So if the rates now, as Honorable Minister said, 25, 26, 27, That's the reason behind your question. It's comparing the 25, 26, 27 that it is high. But then when you look, it will be applicable to only the 60 billion. Take the 23, 24, 25 on the 60 billion and take 9.1 on the 200. When you put it together, the weighted average is 13.7%. So when you look at it from a portfolio or a risk perspective, it is even lower than any of the past 5 years. So that risk, in terms of the government's ability to service them, is eliminated. Second point is these are treasury bills. They are being issued on a week-to-week basis. In 3 months, it gets eliminated. So when the inflation gets to 15%, rates get below 20, all of them will be reset. This is not the same as bonds. If a bond is 10 years, even if inflation goes down, you can't change the rate. So the beauty of it is that these are short-term actions you are seeing, and once in the medium term we get to 8 plus or minus of inflation, you should be seeing all of them almost tapering towards the lower end of the teens. So, no, Minister, I think that's what I can say for that explanation. Thank you.
So you see why he's earned the title, Professor.
So, Honorable Minister, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, friends from the media, unfortunately, we've done 2 rounds already and done over an hour. So with your kind permission, let's do a final account for our guests and media partners and draw the curtain on today's presser. If I saw your hand and haven't called, be rest assured the next session there is a priority arrangement to make sure you ask your questions. With us this morning once again is our host and Minister for Finance, Dr. Mohammed Amin Adam, also MP for the good people of Karaga constituency. Also with us is Honorable Abna Osei Asari, Minister of State at the Ministry of Finance and Member of Parliament for Etiwa East constituency. We are joined by my good deputy, Honorable who is Deputy Information Minister and Member of Parliament for Botiano, English Yamanfrom constituency. We are also joined by Honorable Deputy Minister for Finance, Chief Director at the Ministry of Finance, Madam Eva Mens. We also have some special guests here with us. Is the Honorable Deputy Minister for Fisheries and Aquaculture Development and MP for Mion constituency, Honorable Musa Abdulaziz Ayaba. Also with us this morning is the CEO of Maslock, Madam Abi, Knowledge Joy News, Asasi Radio, ABC News GA live feed for the general public at the next session. Enjoy the rest of the day.